Over 1 million teachers use IXL in their classrooms every day for one reason. They love it. The gold standard teaching and learning solution, IXL provides thousands of instructional resources, actionable analytics, and assessments to increase teacher capacity and effectiveness. IXL takes the guesswork out of lesson planning with ready made plans. Built in engagement tools such as customizable competitions make learning fun for students. Dr. Trujillo, superintendent at Tuscan Unified School District, says this about IXL, quote, "For the teacher, IXL opens up the door to be a lot more effective and provide more differentiated instruction to the different subgroups of students in their class." End quote. Empower your teachers with the tools and insights they need to enhance instruction, all in one single, easy to use platform. Get started today at ixl.com.
You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Welcome back, Principal Matters podcast listeners. It is a Monday Matters with William D. Parker here on the other end of the microphone. Hi, William.
Good to see you. I hope everyone's doing well.
Good. I just called you William. I always call you Will. What was that?
Well, my mother would call me William when I was in trouble.
Well, you're not in trouble.
Yeah,
You're not at
well,
all. So I'm
yeah,
sorry
and
about that. But hi, Will.
Yeah, well, my brothers call me Willie, so
Okay.
that's just how it goes.
Well, if you had called me Jennifer, I think I would have been a little off kilter. So let's get back. Let's get back to where we belong, which is, we have a topic to talk about today that we have not yet talked about.
Mhm.
And you have written about it, which we'll get to a little bit later in this episode. But I brought this up to you a couple of weeks ago, Will,
Yeah.
because I had been at a conference and the speaker was giving advice to school administrators about various things. And then he said, one of the things you absolutely need to do is make sure your house is in order.
Mhm.
And we all kind of scrunched our eyebrows like, what? And what he said was, I'm talking about your financial house. It's really important as school administrators that we understand a lot of things, that we really truly understand how much money we are making, because a lot of us started as teachers, and depending on how the pay cycle goes, you make a certain amount of money. And some of us pick up coaching, some of us are paid throughout the summer, some of us are not. So we usually understand that we have the support usually of a bargaining unit or someone who can help us. And then we move into administration and we get a raise. And another friend said to me once, wow, it's never enough, is it? You get another raise and you get another raise and it's never enough. What he was saying about that is you have to not only make sure it's enough, but you need to make sure that you have done the work on the financial end so that your house is in order in the event that a different, more perfect, more wonderful job happens. In the event that you suddenly find that you're going to or want to move to a different state, that you want to sell your house because you got a different position and you find that you haven't really been paying attention to the financials in your professional life.
Mhm.
It is tricky, I think, with the educators because of the weird calendar that we work, and that our contracts are negotiated and all that kind of jazz. And so I don't think Will or I have any appetite for sitting here and counseling on a financial perspective. But what we can do is counsel on financial awareness and readiness.
Yeah.
Um, Will, you wrote a post about this. It's been a few years, but I think you should tell us what you think.
I'm just glad you brought this back in because, in when I wrote my book, Pause, Breathe, Flourish, Living Your Best Life as an Educator, I tried to write that book as a way for leaders to reflect on the the parts of their life that weren't just school.
Mhm.
So let's think about your most intimate relationships. Let's think about your physical wellness. Let's think about the way that your relationships are being invested in future generations. And one of those areas, because I unpacked 10 of them in that book, was your own financial wellness. I called it managing, how are you managing your resources? And for the same reasons, Jen, because I have seen um, the way that people approach their finances as something that's like either an anchor that they can use to hold them steady when things are getting really hard, or it's used as an anchor in a negative sense because they're drowning. It's pulling
Mhm.
down in ways that they just can't keep their head above water. And I just want to say at the very beginning of this, because education is a field in which most of us go because we have servant hearts. We're not looking at incomes that are going to be comparable across our board. I've talked about this in other settings that if you compare the income of educators to any other professionals with our level of education, we don't make as much money per dollar as any other field with our level of education. So that's just the reality. At the same time, if we do pay attention and consider practices that will keep us healthier, it's going to benefit you, not just in life, but also in the choices you have in your work. And I'll just give a couple of examples. One, and you've touched on this already, the way that we manage our financial wellness often gives us the freedom or lack of freedom when we have a career choice to make. And I've seen people trapped. They're in a situation that they don't
Absolutely.
want to be in any longer, but they're like, I can't get out from under this because I can't figure out how to make that move without this
That's right.
jeopardizing that opportunity. So I'm not going to try to prescribe how to put your financial life in order so that that doesn't become a problem, but I'll say this, Jen, that, people listening to this right now are either like, it's confirming your practice or you're like, "Oh, this make me uncomfortable." And the best time, and you already know the answer to this question, the best time to plant a tree is when? Well,
25 years ago
25 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is
today.
today. So if you've done work for years, you find yourself in a position sometimes where you have more opportunities. If you haven't, then start today, because it gives you that. It also, I think, affects your time and energy. The way that we manage those kinds of resources, it affects how we show up. If you're burdened all the time by the things that are going on within your own financial landscape, it's really hard to show up and be present and help other people in the work that they're doing. Um, and it's it's just an important skill set to learn, not just for yourself, but for your school, because those same principles are going to translate in the way we're managing other people's resources, often translate in the way that we're managing our own. And then the last thing I'll say is that it's just helpful for me to think about financial wellness within the concept of generosity. Because if the goal of making sure that I can provide for my family and have financial well being or have some flexibility in my work, if the goal is just me centered, um, man, I'm going to find myself pretty disappointed with whatever I'm choosing. But if my goal is other centered so that I can be helping others, so that I can be generous, so that I can have more opportunities to pour into the lives of other people, then there's an incentive, beyond just
Mhm.
for making sure that I'm addressing those things too. So, without trying to sound like a financial advisor, which neither of us are,
Right.
there's some things that I just think are important to keep in mind.
That's right. And I think I've watched a lot of colleagues and friends do this in many different ways. And there's a lot of right ways to do it. And there's one wrong way to do it, which is not pay attention, right? I'm going to tell you about my friend Connie versus my friend Diane. My friend Connie is the one that said, "Oh, there's just never enough money," right? Well, she was also the one that every time she got a promotion, she got a better apartment, she got a better car, she took better vacations, and she had the money to do it, but she had only that much money. And so, to your point, she got a job at one a job offer, and it was her dream job, a dream job. She wanted it so badly, but it was $10,000 a year less, and she couldn't do it. She had already she was at her max. And then my friend Diane, who's a hoot, and she and her husband were both educators, and she was the one that did the finances, which I would not recommend you be him. I recommend you know something about this. But she took she whatever money they made when they got married, you get raises every year, a certain percentage. And she would take all that extra money and she would save it. She never told him. So he retired this past spring. And she said, "I want you to pull up your pay stub from 2010 and I want you to pull up your pay stub from last week." And he said, "My God, it's the same. They've made a huge mistake. I never got a single raise." And she said, "Oh yeah, you did." But I had taken that money, so the take home was exactly the same. She had taken the money and put it into an annuity or savings or whatever. So he didn't even know. and they had maintained their level of, their style of living. And so
Mhm.
now they're going to rent a house at Lauderdale by the Sea once, a month every winter because they have that money. And so,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, you just have to think about what your goals are. And maybe your goals are to spend every penny you have. Do it. That's fine. But I think it's just important to not be living a little bit in the dark about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
No, there's that I love those stories, Jen, and I'm just gonna say this to listeners, usually every year when I set goals for the new year, finances is just one of them, but it's helpful to, just like with any goal, to be specific or set a target or give yourself some action steps to take. And as I get older, Jen, those things have changed. Like how am I increasing my retirement as I'm thinking about the next 10 or 15 or 20 years? What kind of trust or will do I need to have in place for my family now that my children are adults? And what kind of life insurance security do we need? So there's all, I'm not going to prescribe for people what that looks like for them. But I will say this when it comes to those practices. And again, this isn't in any way to reflect on anyone else. I'm just telling you me. But even in this work, as I've moved from principal to director to now full time consulting and business owner, um, the rewards of this work have been really good. I would not be doing it if they weren't. But even with the increases that we've seen in being able to
Mhm.
manage our own business and set our own schedules and write our own contracts, and again, I'm just this may be sharing too much, but I'm just sharing it as an example. We haven't moved.
Mhm.
We haven't
That's
bought a
right.
new car. We haven't. We are still right where we were
Yep.
before all of that, and because when I look at the landscape, for instance, of title funding or school funding or all those things that happen in politics or shifts in organizations or groups that I'm going to be working with, I don't want the stress to be that I'm desperate
Mhm.
to have fill in the blank this next opportunity. I want to be living in a way that whatever's going on, I can still show up and serve in a way that provides value and help. And if it matches their needs and what I'm offering, if it's something that can turn into an opportunity, a business opportunity, then great. But if not, I'm I'm not trying to put my position myself out of the kind of work that I want to be doing because I want to keep that mindset of when I show up, I'm at peace.
Right.
And so again, none of that is to be said to anybody that don't beat yourself up if you feel like, well, I'm overextended or my shovel's not big enough or have you seen what age my kids are or how many of my kids are in college? And Jen and I know all those things. And so, but I am saying this is just an important reminder. I'm going to put a link in today's podcast, Money Matters episode, to that article that I wrote in 2018. It's called "Packing Parachutes While Your Money Management Matters," and it became a chapter in my book. So if anybody wants to read some more details in there, Jen, they can. But the reason I used the parachute analogy too was that parachutes are what you keep in your backpack when you're in a really tight situation. And the way we manage our finances can often be the parachute that catches us in a hard time. Um, I also had a friend one time who, when he was running track, his coach would make him run with a parachute
Oh, yeah, I
to
did that.
pull him back. I bet you've done that.
That's so
And
hard.
but you know what? If we manage, sometimes we're managing our finances in a way that we just feel like they're just pulling us down all the time too. And you can either determine whether that's going to help you grow strength and muscle for that next thing you're going to do, or you can just quit and let it suck you down or what. I'm just saying this as an encouragement that these are complex situations, but we wouldn't have talked about it today if it wasn't something that's true. And
That's right.
so, thank you, Jen, for bringing this conversation to us.
Thank you, everyone. I had a friend tell me when I was 25 and just started teaching, keep your eye on the years between 55 and 70. You want to be financially secure so that those 15 years are awesome. And I, at the time, was like, 55, that's 18 million light years away. Well, my friends, I'm 52. So that advice, it stuck with me even all those years ago.
Well, thank you. These are so many of the times the conversations that you have around coffee or the water
Right.
cooler or like after the meetings. And if any of these things are things like, man, Jen, Will, I'd like to sit in a room and just kind of pick your brains. just email us. You can
Yep.
always reach me at will@williamdparker.com. Not because I never give financial advice. I'm just saying that if you want a thought partner on the other side of you, and this is just another one of those issues where you want some reflection, I'm always happy to be a thought partner. And Jen, how can people stay connected with you?
Yep. They can email me at jen@jenschwanke.com or find my website at jenschwanke.com.
All right, friends. Thank you so much, Jen, for bringing this topic to Monday Matters. And until next time, Principal Matters listeners, you can find all these resources at my website at williamdparker.com. Thanks for doing what matters, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.